Thank you. But it's very nice to be here. Just wanted to say hello and yes, introduce myself. I'm a member of the team working on the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities at UIL, and I already know several of you very well. Obviously, Danielle Burial, our current chair of the governing board at UIL. Dennis, I know very well, Balash, and quite a few other familiar faces. So I think it's a great initiative. And again, it's already been acknowledged the efforts that have been made to establish this network for North American learning cities and to then foster exchange between networks in other parts of the world um, and this network. But I just wanted to maybe mention a few things from the more kind of global UNESCO perspective. I think that it was very useful to start with the MFA. So I appreciated that intervention at the beginning, because I think for us, coming every 12 or 13 years, the International Conference on Adult Education is a way for us to frame the global agenda, global discourse around adult learning and education, set priorities for the following decade and a bit. And with the Marrakesh Framework for Action coming in 2022, we know it's going to be a roadmap for a lot of the work we do in the years to come. And it tends to focus more on, I would say, national systems for adult education. But there is, for the first time, I would say, a more pronounced focus on the local level, and there's a point in the MFA that's explicitly dedicated to the local level and various other references. I think acknowledging the importance of how now in many parts of the world the concrete action and programs being implemented for adult education are stemming from the grassroots level and actually coming up to influence national policies maybe more than they have in the past. And something we talk about a lot at UIL is this dialogue between the national and the local level, and really seeing it as going both ways and increasingly working with national policymakers and government representatives alongside city representatives, and really fostering a relationship of equal among equals in many contexts. But I think just based on those presentations, if I could sum up, well, first of all, we've mentioned, I think, or Dennis mentioned the next International Conference on Learning Cities. That's a big focus for us coming now in December. In just a few months' time. It's going to take place in Saudi Arabia this time. The previous ICLC was in Korea. Before that, Colombia. Before that, it was in Cork, in Ireland. So we have a very, very international approach to this event. And as we build up to the ICLC in December, we're organizing a monthly webinar series. I thought I would just share a link in the chat, because every month we are, yes, organizing a webinar on ESD and building climate resilient urban communities. So it's very much focused on sustainability. Everybody's welcome to join. It's open to members and not current members of the network. So you're all more than welcome to join. Also to volunteer to contribute if there would be something on the topic. The topics vary from month to month, but if there's something that you would like to contribute, you can also volunteer to do so. And we're really hoping that that a national commission will be established for the US soon, so that we can formally receive these applications. We saw the work of Lowell. We know there's a lot happening elsewhere in the US, and we're really hoping that the formal arrangements can be in place soon to actually, receive and review and applications, and hopefully bring some US cities into the network. But yes, based on the presentations, I would just highlight three things which I think are really crucial for ensuring the continuity of a learning city approach. And I think most of the presentations have mentioned one or more of these. First of all, bringing the learning city approach to the community and outside of institutions, and to as many spaces within the city as possible. And I think that the Learning City Festival, or the Lifelong Learning Festival, is a really effective way of doing this. And it seems to be gaining traction. And in most of the learning cities now that are incredibly active, there is some form of learning festival, like open celebration of learning happening across parks, schools, libraries, community learning centres. And it's such an effective model if you can keep that going on a regular basis. The second aspect of continuity, I would say, is having a robust governance framework within the municipal government, but involving other partners to keep the Learning City initiative going beyond um, the current electoral cycle, because we have found in many cases around the world that learning cities join, they're very active, and then a few years later there's a change of local government, and quite often the incoming administration are not aware that the city was a member of the network. And I think that what Dennis mentioned about the steering committee in Cork is such a fantastic example of how you can bring in local universities, civil society organizations, working alongside municipal governments to keep the whole initiative rolling, regardless of political developments. So that's another aspect. And then finally, which I think is already something you're all very committed to, is having strong networks within countries, between countries and regions. And this whole, I would say, phenomenon is really gathering speed in almost every world region. And just in the past few years, we've seen so many new national networks in Mexico, Argentina, France, Korea. We've also seen the formation of quite a few regional networks. And just in terms of maintaining momentum and peer exchange, they are invaluable. So that's another thing that I think we would strongly encourage at UIL is to engage in these networks. But of course, I'm preaching to the converted in this case. But maybe I'll finish there. That's just a kind of a general overview, but I've really enjoyed listening to these presentations. And like I said, with the webinar series, we would like to work as much as possible with all interested stakeholders, and then move towards a more formal arrangement where we can have hopefully official membership conferred to some of the cities represented here today. Okay, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Alex. What a superb job you did of summarizing, as you said, all of that information. And I do know that the information about the monthly webinars has been going out through our networks. So please, all of us on the call, continue to share that information through the networks. Well, whew. If you have time, folks, I'm going to turn off the recording now, but if you have time, we'd love to invite you to stick around for some questions. If you don't have time, we totally understand that. First, let me do my one.